Hey there, today I want to show you everything that is growing in my kitchen garden as of June 1st, 2021. So basically in this tour, I'm going to show you all that's grown through the month of May in my Chicago kitchen garden. So let's get started. All right, I want to start here in my front pollinator garden. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know this is very unconventional, but we have anise hyssop. This has come back from the ground. This is a perennial. It's about to start blooming these beautiful purple cone flowers, or they're not cone, but they're like these tall purple flowers. So stay tuned for these. These are anise hyssop. Here in the front, we have echinacea, which is just about to take off. This also is a perennial that comes back every year after winter. This is mountain mint. This is a local native plant here in the Chicago area. Gorgeous smell. It smells kind of minty, but has little flowers. Bees and butterflies love it. So these have all come back from winter on their own. I've done literally not a thing to them. Lemon balm is here behind me next up. So it's also filling in. You can already tell we're gonna have trouble finding the path here pretty soon, but these things are just so fragrant and beautiful and so full already, which is amazing. Then we have some more anise hyssop and lemon balm. Now here we get to the unconventional part. I've got some broccoli growing here that I planted in ground. Broccoli I usually keep out of my beds because it's so big. And this one's actually starting to form a pretty nice little crown, which is awesome. And then we have a couple of other things showing up. So this is a native grass I planted. This is coming back from after winter on its own. This is feverfew, also an herb that's come back. Then we've got potatoes starting to come. If you missed my potato planting video, you'll recognize these starting to really show their own green. Then we've got yarrow. Yarrow's also come back on its own. You can see it's starting to bloom a little bit, show some flowers. And then we have that. I think that's maybe a weed, but I'm just letting it do its thing. And then back here on this side, we've got some more broccoli, more potatoes. I cut down all the tulips. They're finished. And then here we have this humongous tansy plant. So I may be regretting this because this is literally becoming a tree, but I do love the flowers on this plant. And it has such a unique fragrance to it. So that's the front beds is filling in so much green. I was running this morning and coming up this street and looking at the garden, and I was like, I can't even see the raised beds from the street now because of all this green. So I kind of like it like that, I think. So that's the front two beds. That's what's happened. Literally all these things in the last probably 60 days have come up and just grown on their own. I've done hardly anything to them. That's the beauty of perennials and plants that just love this particular weather. So growing natives and perennials really makes a difference in terms of upkeep, because I've literally done nothing to these. I don't hardly water them at all, and they just do their thing. So now let's move on to the front two beds, which I have done quite a bit for. Okay, so in these beds, we have got greens galore. I need to harvest a lot from these beds because time is ticking, and a lot of these things it's gonna get too warm for them pretty quickly here. So you can see we have this red Russian kale, which is so lush now. I've been harvesting from these plants quite often, at least, once or twice a week. We have all these radishes here, tons of radishes that are really honestly kind of past their due. You can see how they are creating this big thick stem here. They're starting to bolt because the weather has gotten, actually we had a cold spell. I'm going to show you how that affected my plants, but we had warm spell before the cold spell, and that made these plants start to bolt. So radishes are ready to be pulled. They're pretty much either not going to do anything and bolting, or they're ready to eat. We've got tons of chives. The chives over the last probably 2 or 3 weeks have flowered, which I just love. You can do all kinds of fun things with these blossoms. You can eat them straight like in a salad, or you can make chive vinegar, lots of fun things like that. Then let's see what else we've got. Our cabbages. This has been my favoritist, most favorite season ever with cabbages. I've been harvesting some of the heads, and I'll show you in another video how we start to harvest. But these cabbages are really filling in pretty nicely. We've got some nice compact heads. I think I probably have over 20 cabbage heads ready to harvest now, which is crazy. Now I did tuck in some warm season plants. Honestly, I regret it a little bit because we had a cold snap like I told you, but I fit in some peppers, eggplants, tomatoes just about a week ago. So I headed to Houston for my book photos. We were taking photos for my next book, and I had all these plants that I just needed to get in the ground, or in the beds. So I planted them. That would be like May 22nd, something like that. And then this past weekend, we had super cold weather, and a lot of these got some frost damage. So I'll show you that. So you can see I tucked peppers. Basically what I do is I just come in, find a hole, and plant the warm season plants in between my cool season plants. So these peppers survived. They didn't really get impacted by the frost. I've got an eggplant right here. And then you can see these little tomatoes are tucked in as well. So again, I love doing things kind of unconventionally, having all this stuff in the garden at once. But what I found is that the cool season plants, they kind of protect the roots and things, and these plants settling in. They get to kind of get started with some coverage around them. They don't dry out as quickly. And even I think with the cold snap, these were kind of, what do you call it? Like they had a little bit of warm cushion around them, almost like a little blanket of plants. I did not cover them that night. I didn't realize it was gonna get down to, I think it got down maybe even right at 40 or below. So let me show you what happened to some of my plants as a result. You can see this eggplant, the leaf has some frost damage on it right there. And then these tomatoes, they were all perfectly green. And now you can see they have these little spots on them where you can see they got some damage. So I'm hoping they'll bounce back. The plants were super healthy when I put them in. We're out of the woods in terms of frost now. I think we're gonna hit like 90 this weekend. So very sad that when that happens, but it's just part of playing the game. I could have waited a week or two to plant those warm season plants, but then I would have probably ended up stressing those plants because they would have stayed in a small little container too long. So the peas, as you can see, I feel like they've been really slow this season, but they are starting to reach almost, I don't know, 2 feet, 3 feet tall. They do need some twine, so I'll be doing that today, twining them up and attaching them to the trellis. You can see, like I taught you, these little tendrils, when they don't touch, when they're not touching anything, they kind of just stall out growing. So that may honestly be why they're just sitting here. So I'm going to twine these up today or tomorrow and hopefully let them finish up before my tomatoes need the trellis, because these little tomato babies are coming along right underneath the peas. A lot of you guys have asked, do I grow peas and tomatoes at the same time? And yes, basically I do. And I just trust that by the time these are finished, the tomatoes will then take their place. So as you can see, when you pull the two seasons together, you end up with a little bit of, crowding for just a little period of time. So that's mostly what's happening in these two beds. We've got Swiss chard, kale, radishes, loads of cabbages, peas, tomatoes, eggplants, peppers. It's like this funny mix of warm and cool season all together. And there's evidence of frost and then evidence also of heat. So we've got the spinach here. You can see when a spinach plant starts to bolt, it creates this pointy leaf, and you can see how it's creating almost like a little floret in the center. It's going to turn that into a flower. So this here is evidence of heat, and then the warm season plants are like, it's too cold. So it's hard in the in-between seasons, but you just keep going and don't worry about the losses and just don't give up. All right, my next two beds, if you missed my video about calling it quits on a plant, I did finally pull out most of the cabbages from these two beds. The cabbages were taking up so much space and taking way too long, and I could tell they weren't forming heads very well. So in that video, I actually left some leaves here in this planter, and I actually regretted it because I've gotten a lot less lettuce production in this bed compared to the one here where I went ahead and pulled the cabbage entirely. So you can see how gorgeous these lettuces are, and definitely ready for harvest. So I'll show you that in another video, how I cut these lettuces. You can cut them by head or just by little lettuce leaf at a time. Again, we've got a mix here. I added in some cucumbers. I'll be moving my obelisk trellises into these beds shortly. And you can see these got a little bit of frost damage as well with that cold snap. So, but hopefully they're gonna bounce back. I added about 6 cucumbers down the center of both beds. And again, I'm using the lettuces kind of as insulator. That was the word I was looking for, kind of as an insulator. My dinosaur kale or Toscano kale is caling it. It's so nice and big. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 plants just here in a row. They've been so productive, and I've loved using them for smoothies. Now we're about ready. We have enough to start making kale chips to see if we can get the kids to eat some more greens and not so many chips. You know what I'm talking about? Carrots are coming along. I just kind of threw these in here as an addition. I'm sure they need to get thinned, so I'll try to do that a little bit. But the greens are starting to look really healthy. And as the lettuces come out, the carrots will have some more room as well. All right, so that's mostly the 2 beds. Oh, and then cilantro. If you missed my video about cilantro bolting, you can check that out on our channel, but this cilantro is indeed bolting, just like the spinach. So you can see these thick stems here. I came back and cut from the thick stem, but you can see from these cilantro plants over here, you can really see the uniqueness of those leaves as soon as the bolting starts to happen. So this is a leaf that isn't bolting, and this is a leaf that is. So see the difference? They start to really spread and thin out. So still good, just not as good. I put some peppers in there as well, a couple of other things for warm season that'll keep growing as we pull these lettuces out. All right, final 2 beds. These are my wild beds, wild and crazy. I planted these with a stir fry blend, is what it was called, Dragon Stir Fry, I believe, by Johnny's Seeds. And I've just loved harvesting from these. You can tell how a lot of it is starting to flower. So these are bolting as well. We've got arugula flowers bolting. We've got some Mizuna flowers. And then we still have some leaves, but you can see a lot of these plants, they're pretty tight together. So the tighter you plant your plants, honestly, generally the more quickly they'll bolt. The plants kind of start to feel stressed a little bit faster than if they have more space. But also they may have bolted just because that weather really reached some high temperatures a couple weeks ago. We've got these purple mustards, which are so beautiful and lovely. And I did squeeze in some warm season plants here as well. And these are ground cherries, so in the nightshade family. And these actually didn't get frost damage, so that's impressive. I've got my larger tomatoes that will be back here on the trellis. I went ahead and slid these in. And then peas again, needing some twine here for support. And let's see what else we got. I did pull some cabbages from back here as well. I think in that video I had only pulled cabbages from the middle 2 beds, but I ended up taking them out of here as well. We've got some huge nasturtium leaves coming our way, which hopefully is going to mean that we'll have some nasturtium flowers. But again, see this? This is frost damage. Nasturtiums do not like frost. So lots of bummers, I guess, from the other night. I should have covered my beds, but I just wasn't thinking, like, we're almost to June. Why do I need to have frost protection? But I forget that I live in Chicago. Okay, so this is mostly what is happening. It's June 1st, 2021, and all these things were planted very last week of March or first or second week of April. So it's a great indication I'll walk you back through of all that you can do in 60 days. So literally from the end of March until the end of May. So 60 days. The last frost date here in the Chicago area was not until the end of May, middle of May. So you realize there's so much you can grow way before the frost date clears. So a lot of people wait to garden at all until there's no more threat of frost. But look what you would miss if you do that. You would miss all this growth, all this deliciousness. And truth be told, a lot of these things are not going to grow well once the frost date clears because it's just too warm. So I hope this encourages you whenever you're watching this, that you can really grow so much more of the year than normally we think. So be encouraged. My garden, the end of May, beginning of June, pretty exciting. Thanks so much for watching. If you would love to learn more about setting up your own kitchen garden, we have all kinds of resources to help you, and I have an entire online course called Kitchen Garden Academy. You can sign up and watch at your own pace at kitchengardenacademy.com, and you'll learn every single step of this process for building your own raised beds, setting up trellises, planting your soil, water, and plants, and grow just like I do. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.